of your house, determine how much you need, and then you go to the forest.
Then go to the forest.
So you spend less time.
Actually, you do, because you know exactly what you're looking for.
Some people need to be told that.
You go to the forest,
especially those that go shopping.
Yes.
In supermarkets.
Yes.
And push trolleys from aisle to aisle.
And then go back to the aisle that they've already come from to return some of the things they had taken to take some more.
Yes.
In the name of shopping. It's more like taking and returning.
What's wrong with your eyes, two of you? I don't understand.
Apart from
What's up?
apart from, or in addition to,
You're looking in an easterly direction.
That's a very good. Actually, I've seen an application for the proverb. Let's go shopping. Where? Do you have a list? If there's no list, I'm not going. Then there's a budget.
You get into the forest before determining what it is you need. You're going to get confused.
Oh, yes. Totally. Our guest is architect Wachira Njuguna. He is the chairman of NCBDA. NCBDA has for a long time been known as the Nairobi Central Business District Association. It's now changing its name, Wachira.
Oh, yes, Eric, it's changing its name to Nairobi County Business District Association. We've expanded our jurisdiction because the founders of NCBDA were centrally placed. We had Vora of Sarova, we had Chris Kirubi, and we had other organizations, the Hilton, Barclays Bank, and many other businesses that were big in the city then. But most of them have gone outside the city. Standard Group used to be at Townhouse.
Yep.
But now you're out here. So we decided that because most of our regional members and the city has grown, we go out there and encompass the bigger city.
Okay.
Yes.
It was for the Nairobi of those days.
Yeah, I remember.
And when they moved out, they want still to be part of the NCBDA, so change the name to encompass everybody.
Oh, yes.
I'm saying Nairobi of because I don't recall any member of NCBDA then coming from Moi Avenue and below, or actually Tomboya, and the other side of Tomboya Street. It was Tomboya going up towards Uhuru Park, towards Milimani and Kilimani.
Yeah, of course, the people who had the primary interest in making the city better were the elite. They wanted a cleaner city. I mean, they are not comfortable with seeing garbage and seeing disorder, seeing residents and visitors having a hard time in the city. And it was all to their benefit because we had people like International House Limited, Barclays Bank, the Hilton, Sarova, all within the city center and wanting their visitors, wanting the residents to enjoy a beautiful city, a more orderly city. But then now, most of their businesses have expanded beyond. I mean, the Hilton now has branches all the way in Mulolongo and Hilton Doubletree on Gong Road. So that means that their concern also expanded. Hence the need for the new entrants like us to expand beyond Moi Avenue.
Yes. Before it became Nairobi County Business District Association, how would you say that the Central Business District Association fared? How would you say it performed in protecting or enhancing the business of Nairobi?
If you look at, I'll give you an example of Standard Group when they were at Townhouse. When most of us left university in the late 90s, mid-90s to late 90s, there were big corporates in the city. You'd find a Standard building. Townhouse had only two big companies, Kenya Reinsurance and Standard Group. Then most of us, the leftover spaces, had started attracting the smaller businesses. It went on to a level where Standard Group and the big corporates left the city, and the spaces that were occupied by the big corporates within the city were taken over by small traders, telephone bureaus, cleaning bureaus, and the whole ecosystem changed. It came with its own challenges. There is, of course, the issues of water, the issues of congestion, the issues of a lot of disorder and small enterprises bringing in their own issues. the conflict between the big traders and the ones who had remained and the small traders, and that had to be resolved. Yes.
So, in those earlier days, remember NCBDA with, just like you said, the late Vora, the late Kirubi, and the CEO, then, or chairperson, then Philip Kisia, very vibrant. And NCBDA at the point even going ahead and, coming up with those garbage collection points, police patrol booths in the city. And then after that, it just fizzled out. And you only hear NCBDA by name. And I guess that's why the question by Ndu still has to be answered. Since then to now, what has happened to NCBDA?
And you're right. And what happened is that, for example, I was a vice chairman in 2011. That's like around 10 years ago, or 11 years ago. And that is the time we were doing the last projects, trying to get public toilets installed across the city. We had to get smoking bays across the city, which we achieved. The pedestrianization of Mamangina and all that. But then, just like all businesses, there are booms and busts. Yeah, I left and I went to National Housing Corporation as an MD, and I left others. What they did with it is a story for another day. But here I am. The end of last year, I took it upon myself to get back there and start from where most of us left.
So then would you say it performed poorly over the last 10 years?
Of
And then
course.
there's a lot so it did. The association performed poorly.
Oh, yes.
And then there's certain things then that were destroyed within the city, or at least did not come to, did not come to scratch, right? Or not up to scratch. So then what do you think needs to happen in the city now to get it back up to scratch?
Of course, you know very well that I'm bidding for the governorship of Nairobi, and some of the key things that are very critical is the governance of the city. The last trees we planted were during Gakuo's time, when he was a clerk, and that was near around 2011, 2010. What happened from then to now? Devolution came, yeah?
Yep.
And we had the first system of government. What were their main focus? Not to improve the city, but we all have the evidence that the city decayed. Yeah? Over 5 years, it was a wasted period. Just because of governance. And bad governance brings about corruption. And we all know that the first government of Nairobi after devolution had a whole basket of looters at the treasury in Nairobi City County. And for 5 years, they looted all the money and implemented no projects.
There are those who argue that the button had been passed. They were just continuing with the time-honored tradition that had been there in the city council, and they were just carrying on with that particular practice.
They were just doing their lap.
It was their turn. This is what other people did, because the subsequent government that also came, it could be argued, did something similar, with a lot more fanfare, a lot more drama, a lot more entertainment, but the same thing. You are an architect.
Yes, I am.
When I look at the citations of architects, they also call town planners. Okay? All the aspirants that I've heard coming up and telling us the things they want to do, I haven't heard not one, talk about zoning Nairobi in terms of whatever is required. Business districts, reorganizing it socially, reorganizing it residentially, giving a holistic picture of what Nairobi ought to be. You hear of a metropolis, you want to bring in Machakos, you want to bring in whoever it is, whatever it is you want to bring in. But this picture, so that one can actually say, in the next 50 years, this is what we hope Nairobi is going to be. It just seems to happen. Kiserian just happens.
Kitengela,
Just happens.
Rongai,
Just happens.
Mololongo,
Just happens.
Syokimau.
It just happens.
That saying that you put in play, you uttered here about not going to the forest before you decide the timber that you need applies here. They say before you go cutting the timber in the forest, you should spend 90% of your time sharpening your axe.
True.
Yeah, that means that you need to spend a lot more time planning, especially at the city level, before you get to implementation.
I'm in agreement with you completely.
And you asked a question about you've had all these people coming in here claiming they want to lead the city, and they have no clue.
No, they don't tell you the plan they have for this thing. They,
You know-
they just want to lead, they just want to lead, they
Yes.
just want to lead and lead some more.
And it's good to be in a company of people who are enlightened. We have the Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan.
And how many people know
In
about it?
existence. I mean, you know what happens? The citizenry really are interested in the facts. They
We
want
are
to be
interested here.
Now we are. And I'll share with you, because I've been a CEC in the county government in charge of planning.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, you have.
And I was there for 2 years.
And you are in national housing as the boss.
Yes, and I know what is in place. I know what the county is doing to sharpen the axe before cutting the trees.
You know, Mr. Wachira, you know I'm belaboring this point. As you can see, I'm a dog with a bone. I'm not letting go of this
Yes,
one. eh?
yes.
Of what use is such a wonderful scheme and plan when nobody knows about it? Or the people who know about it are just a handful?
And they're not implementing it.
Yes.
No, they are. Let me take you through it.
Really?
The Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan has key areas that it wants to touch, decongesting the city. And that is one of the main things that I want to implement.
How old is that plan?
It was sponsored by World Bank and JICA during Kidero's time. They came in and helped in laying out the master plan.
Before they came in with that plan,
Yes.
did there exist another plan before that?
Of course, there's been a bigger plan. Nairobi has not grown amorphously.
Actually, it has.
No, it has not. There is specific zoning in all different areas. You know, there are low density areas, there are high density areas, there are commercial areas, there's an industrial area. So we have all these areas.
That we understand.
Yes.
But then, the point I'm getting at here is this. If you look at even our roads, for instance, whenever we want to expand it, all right? When the planners of this city planned it, whenever it is they did, road reserves, etc., are intended for these purposes of the future, where you want to put infrastructure, you want to put power lines, you want to, whatever you need to do, okay? Then you have a population that does what Nairobi population is doing. You are telling me that the things that you have in place have accommodated all these considerations, and that even as we're moving forward, they're moving forward with this in mind, knowing the population has increased.
What did you tell us about this master? So it was done with the aid of JICA
And World Bank.
and World Bank in the Kidero years. This is basically less than 7 years ago.
Yep.
So when was it launched? When was it finalized? When was it launched? And what does it address those questions the city is saying? How many years ahead does it look at?
There are two plans.
Okay.
There is a Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan, and there is a Nairobi Metropolis Integrated Plan
Okay.
that brings together Machakos, brings Naivasha, Ruiru, Ngong, and Kiserian.
Okay.
As a wider, because we hope that it's very obvious the city will grow to a level where it will get to those extents. But let me get back to Muga. One, you see the bypasses, the southern bypass and eastern bypass. To the common eye, it looks like it's just a project, but that has really decongested the city. Number two, you've, I'm sure, heard about BRT.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rapid transport system.
That bus which is supposed to travel along that red line on.
Yes,
on
yes,
Yes. And you see, for the common eye, the commoner's eye, it looks like it's a big project that is being done to benefit some people, and it will never work. Those doubts are very okay. But the reality is, we must improve the public transport in the city. If this has to be a modern, so that is going on, a modern city. Now listen to this. The overpass that you've been seeing from the airport all the way to Rironi, that also is a part of the Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan. The Marikiti market is being relocated to the Kenya Railways land so that we create an underpass from Haile Selassie Avenue all the way to Industrial Road. And those are some of the key projects that I want to make sure that they're accelerated. And then the railway land, you see the railway city, I'm sure you've heard about the railway city.
Yep.
Yeah? This 400 acres between
Mudurwa.
and Uhuru Highway. That will be a game changer in the whole city, because that will decongest the city and will create a new expansion area for the Nairobi CBD. And I'm sure you've heard about the Eastlands Regeneration Plan. Have you heard that? All the way from Makongeni, Kaloleni, all the way.
I've heard of
now,
it.
when that is implemented, yeah, you will not see small traders, Juakali traders, encroaching onto the public spaces on the road reserves, because we'll have unlocked new lands. We'll have created new facilities within the city to create new opportunities in an orderly way for the small and medium and micro enterprises.
Easier said than done.
Wachira,
Yes.
yeah.
Go ahead and do.
So these are plans. They're plans, and they sound wonderful. But the thing is that until the plan is activated, it remains just so. So what has stopped all these things from happening in the last 7 years, 5 years? And what will guarantee that they will happen in the next 5?
And I agree with you. If a plan is on paper and it's not implemented, that's just a waste of ink. Yeah? But the truth is that some baby steps are happening. But then the question is, how will we accelerate the implementation of the Nairobi Integrated Urban Master Plan so that the city at least can unlock its potential and create opportunities for people?
That's what I was asking.
It's all about leadership.
In this plan, Wachira,
Yes.
are there, implementation matrices? Are there milestones within X number of years? Have this done within X number of years? Have the next thing done? So, like the way we've been implementing the Vision 2030, is there an integration? An implementation plan of the master plan?
Of course, on paper, it's still a plan. That there is a plan to implement this aspect, funds allowing. All these things are driven by the availability of funds. The railway city, for example, or the Eastlands Urban Regeneration, all of them are dependent on the availability of funds. The truth is that we still have maybe approximately another 5 years to be able to get to a level where we say we've reached the 75% implementation.
But isn't there a plan that says that by this time we shall start funding this project for Railway City, we shall start funding this project for Eastlands, by this point we shall commence, and by this point we should be at 20%, 40%? Isn't there such plan? That's what I'm asking. Because if we just leave it to funds allowing,
yes,
funds will never allow.
Okay, for now, of course, there is of course an existing plan, but there is no money to push this agenda forward. But we have to look for the money.
So shouldn't the
Yes.
focus then be on revenue sourcing for the county? Shouldn't the focus then be own source revenue for the county and say, look, there's so many things that we want to do. I mean, there's a list of things, whether it's provision of water, whether it's clearing of garbage, whether it's decongesting the city, whether it's working on the road network. I mean, we could go on for days, many things that the city needs, right? So, and all of these things are hinged on whether you will get enough money to fund these things or not. So, if we know that these plans can come to life with the injection of much needed funds, then shouldn't the focus be on fund sourcing and raising for the county?
And you're right, Ndu, that we need to work on that issue of generating funds to be able to implement these projects. Of course, there are all these PPP frameworks and internally generated funds and all that. And I can see the doubts in Muga. When you hear someone talking about PPP, and I'm sure there are other, my peers in the contest of the governorship of Nairobi, where they come in and talk about the issue of looking for PPP partners. I can tell you for free. I'm an expert. In fact, I've done my master's was on PPP financing in Kenya. And I can tell you, because of political risk in Kenya, the cost of PPP projects is so high, because when you factor in the political risk element, it becomes impossible to implement PPPs. It becomes a conduit for corruption. So we really need to now get to a level where we say, look here, let's collect our taxes. Let's just use what we have to make the step at a time. So that even if it takes, this city has been here for like 100 and something years. It's been a step at a time, without necessarily getting into a lot of
You know, Bwana
If you
Wachira,
did.
as an aspirant,
Yes.
it behoves us to put you on the spot and to determine whether you actually understand and know what this city requires. I like your thinking. I like the way you're approaching it and the way you're looking at it. Why I'm a dog with a bone on this issue is this. The vast majority of the population of this particular city is in what we call Eastlands, that part. Vast majority. Now, I look at Uhuru Park and I ask myself, why is there an equivalent in Eastlands? Why isn't there equivalent? Well, the leafy suburbs have more than enough open spaces. They even have Karura to fool around with. If I go towards Rongai, I ask myself the same question. And I'm sure planners like you plan with these things in mind. I look at these recent developments where we're getting to almost high rises, and I look for open spaces within them. You find a teeny little thing that you can barely sneeze in, and that's supposed to be a playground for children. I don't see an accommodation for a school. The amenities that go with the population that are supposed to populate these things, I don't see them. Now, so when people, the skepticism you spoke of, so when people talk about the things they want to do, I'm thinking, no.
And then there's a plan.
Yeah. There is a plan. So I'm already seeing things being implemented, and I don't see the implementation of some of these basic things in these plans.
Yeah.
So when someone tells me about a future and a plan, I'm thinking, how is this going to happen when I can already see? But perhaps he will say that's what he hopes to change. You're talking about revenue. I also marvel when people talk about revenue collection. How do you even determine your revenue collection when you haven't determined the potential of what you can collect? Let's say you collect 10 billion a week and you're happy. But what could you collect? Because if you don't understand what you can actually master, you could be reaping a fifth of what you're supposed to, but you'll be happy with the billions, and yet you're losing the bulk of what you're collecting. Again, aspirants such as yourself who come here don't address these things. They tell us what they plan to do. Now, my skepticism is its roots are in one simple fact. Anybody can talk about what they plan to do. I would rather we talk about what you know you can do. So, tell us, what can you do?
You touched on two things, eh? And these are very, very important issues. The issues of Eastlands Nairobi and the lack of recreational facilities, and the impact on that, on the level of happiness of the citizenry who live that side. How will they recreate? How will their kids recreate? So the men decide to go to the bars, yeah, and the women decide to go to church, and the kids decide to play on the streets, which is very dangerous. Now, what has caused this? This is just about corruption, my friend. When I get in there, I will recover those lands that were grabbed. I have the record. You know, whenever you subdivide a place like Kayole, for example, because that was land that was given to the city council by the national government, there were spaces that was designated for playgrounds.
For recreation.
For heaven's sake. Yeah? We have two options. To sit down and allow those criminals to continue sitting on grabbed land, or to step in and get them back. Of course, you can tell my side of the story. And you can also tell that they will gang up and deny me a chance to be governor of this Nairobi. Yeah. So, what will happen? Nairobians will continue getting the poor quality leadership, and they will never get the services they need because of corruption. Number two, you talked about Eastlands also, and why we are not implementing these things, and why it looks like all these candidates look like they have no clue on how to implement. It's because they have no knowledge. I have the knowledge. I know I've been a part of the process of planning and a part of the process of implementation. I have bidded when I was in the private sector for the projects that were within the Eastlands urban regeneration. And why aren't they implementable? Because every time some people sprinkle political risk on it. You go to Kaloleni, you go to Makongeni, you go to Bahati, when we are just about to bring up new buildings, you tell those people down there, you mislead them, that this government that wants to develop better housing for you wants to grab that land from you and wants to steal the heritage that has been there from when your great-grandfathers were living in Bahati, Makongeni. For me, I can tell you for free, because I've been on the campaign trail. This is what I want to do. Those people in Makongeni, because they are my friends, Akina Aladwa, they hang around there. Yeah? Akina, the people in Kaloleni and Bahati. Those people who feel threatened, that their heritage is threatened, that their history is threatened, allocate them some land, some little land within the whole of that area that they occupy. Then the remainder, redevelop it so that we unlock the potential in Eastlands Nairobi without any political risk. That's actually exactly what I would do. Very different from what you hear going around. So I think I've told you exactly what I'll do. But will that be allowed?
Actually,
Let's take a break.
let's take a break.
We'll continue the conversation shortly. It's 26 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, on SpiceFM, broadcasting on radio and online. Our guest is architect Wachira Njuguna. He's the chairman of NCBDA. Now it's Nairobi County Business District Association. Wants to be governor of Nairobi, but also has served as a member of a cabinet of the county of Nairobi, a CEC in charge of urban renewal, and has done very many other things. We're talking about, so what does Nairobi need? And especially if you look at the business, from the business angle, not just the big business, but the small businesses as well. They also need to be factored in and to be considered. What do they need to thrive in this city?
This is the Situation Room.
The conversation continues. Eric Latif, Nduo CT Muga, and our guest, architect Wachira Njuguna, chairman of NCBDA, who wants to be governor of Nairobi. He has served as CEC, Wachira, in charge of urban renewal. And this is in the Sonko administration. How long did you serve this?
I served it for 2 years. I think a maximum of 2 years. And at one point, I thought through it. And actually, my conclusion was that I was not qualified to work for Sonko.
You were not qualified to work for Sonko or for Nairobi?
I was not qualified to work for Sonko because he was my boss. And I thought that I would serve Nairobi better as just a normal businessman out there in town. I would add more value to my city.
What is the job of a CEC for urban renewal? What were you expect? What is the expectation?
I was CC in charge of planning, urban renewal, housing, all those things that concern the city's planning. It brings together the whole issues of zoning, the whole issues of urban development, the whole issue of improving the city through different projects that will add new assets into the city, that will ease and improve the quality of life of the people of the city using planning, using housing, affordable housing. Yeah.
So all those things that you're telling us, that's what you were supposed to be implementing at that point.
Yes.
Looking at the Pangani project and making sure that it's going on course.
Yes.
Looking at the Eastlands upgrading project and making sure that it's going on course. That every new development in the city is going through proper procedure in approvals. And for 2 years you served in this. Did we feel any difference?
Of course. When I was there, number one, you know Mukuru Kwajenga?
Yes.
In my time, we declared it a special planning zone. Whatever is happening in there, in the improvements in the infrastructure, all came from within my time, declaring it as a special planning area so that it's protected, and whatever developments are happening within that area are all in an organized way, and with the support of the national government.
Why Mukuru?
It was the first area that we thought of focusing because it holds very many people, and there were quite clearly difficult issues that needed to be addressed to try and improve the quality of the low-income earners within that area. And of course, it was a wider scheme under the Kenya Slum Improvement Program. So we decided step by step. We had already done, I think, Soweto in Bakasi East. We had done a bit of it in Dandora. And now we were heading there so that slowly, we would be able to now improve the low income areas. Yeah.
Okay. I believe that the power of Nairobi right now is not in the hands of the administration. I do think that there are those who control things, whether it's the money, who control the business, and many have used a fancy word like cartels to describe them. I also think that the person who is going to come in and change the way in which Nairobi has been operating then is going to have a distaste for that relationship between administration and cartels, is going to have to sever the relationship between the two. And it's going to have to be somebody who has the audacity to be very public about that breakup. For me, if that doesn't happen, there will be no water in the taps continuously. There will be this zoning and planning that you're talking about will not happen. There will be no garbage collection in an orderly manner and fashion. Nairobi will not be the city in the sun unless that relationship is severed. What do you think about these power that rests in the hand in a few of these groups, and how can that be terminated in order to see Nairobi thrive? Yes.
The word cartello in Italian, if you Google it, is thief. Cartello. And then, of course, it comes down to English slang, where you group people who've conspired to get business and block others. They're called cartels. Key areas in the city, and I say that without any fear. Key areas, key budgetary allocations, you find they're in garbage collection, contracts that touch on roads implementation, on the sector of health, and there are truly some people who are so deeply entrenched in the city, and they deny everyone else a chance to sneak in there, get some bread, and enjoy being a part of this city. In my administration, one thing that is very, very critical is that we must make sure that we bring in transparency. You know, whenever you're transparent, then the cartel or the thief, they steal at night. Yeah, they will not be able to come in, and then we make it possible for everyone to get a piece of the pie in the city.
As we sit here today, Wachira, do you know them?
Do you know who them exactly?
They're imaginary, and maybe you can see them by the type of cars they drive in town.
So you don't know them?
They are known.
You know
they are known. I mean, those names are there. They are the ones who collect, who repair all the roads. And how do they get the contracts? They go and bribe the governor. I've been there. They go and bribe the governor. So you're getting a contract. I mean, it's simplistic. I'm giving you a contract worth 300 million shillings. Please make sure that you give me a kickback of 30 million so that in the next election I have enough money to go and buy the voters in Mukuru and Korogosho. And we will never change. We will never improve this country.
Are you really likely to deal with them, Wachira? You've been in the Nairobi Central and now County Business District Association for many years. 11 years ago, you were vice chairman. 11 years later, you are chairman. Is it possible that some of them are the ones that have installed you into this position of chairman of NCBDA? You know them. They're your friends. How can you deal with them?
The cartelos?
Yes.
No, I don't deal with cartelos. And I have no interest in promoting a control kind of an economy within the city. We need to liberalize. We need to give everyone an opportunity to do some work. I mean, if I was under the spell of cartels and I was under instructions from cartels to vie for the governorship of Nairobi, I would be having 100 billboards in the city. They would be financing my campaigns. Yeah? I don't have any of that money to go dishing out to the electorate so that they can vote for me. I am giving them hope. I'm telling them, look here, I will be your servant. Listen to me. Agree, accept me. Then I will owe you service. But if I had cartels behind me, dishing out money to me so that I can buy my political power, I would be loyal to them, the cartels. And I've said no. Yeah, I would rather lose this seat than getting there through the help of cartels. or even through cronyism and nepotism. Yeah, because what you're seeing now, and this is something very, very serious. We will never be able to move this city or this country if for you to be nominated as the governor of Nairobi, you must be a buddy of the owner of the party. So when you get in there, what happens?
Your
pay
allegiance
You-
to the owners.
Yeah, or you are related to the owner of the party. For heaven's sake, it is very good for, like, my party is Jubilee. And we believe that we should get the best candidate for this city. And we have different methods that we want to use. There is the issue of consensus. There is the issue of direct nomination. And if those things don't work, then we will go down to the voters for at the primary level. But then what will you get out of that? If you have people going in there for primary elections, and the most crooked, has most money and mobilizes the most, gets lorry loads of voters and takes them to the polling stations. And you end up getting the most corrupt becoming the governor of Nairobi.
Are you saying
Does that
that's-
method work?
Are
It
you
doesn't
saying
work.
that's a real risk for you today?
It's a major risk for our party, Jubilee.
That there are crooks who have a lot of money who are likely to influence the outcome of a primary.
Why do you go stealing money from government and from the city county of Nairobi? You steal that money so that you can be able to go and bribe voters, so that at the end of the day you can get power to get in there to steal a lot more, and protect what you've stolen.
You know, Mr. Wachira,
Yeah.
the businessmen, as we call them, or the carpetbagger, or the profiteer, that's their chosen line of work. That's what they're going to do. If you become governor, you will inherit a government and an administration and the people within it. In the absence of these people, these profiteers cannot work. You see, you are setting yourself a task that is an onerous task, a task that is very difficult to fulfill, because it's like trying to remove the cancer of greed from our people. The reason why they bribe is because they know people will receive the bribes. If people won't receive bribes, you will not bribe, because you know it will not be accepted. Now, the changing of people's hearts and minds so that they themselves can have the sort of vision that you have. This really is where I'm going with my question. How do you get people to understand that everybody stands to benefit much more when they actually do what they're supposed to do, as opposed to trying to get rich in the quickest way possible?
Yeah, Muga, you're talking about three parties here: the giver of the bribe, the receiver, and the recipient of the services, the citizenry. How would you stop a hungry civil servant?
These guys are paid salaries, they're not hungry. They
Yeah?
just want more. I mean, for heaven's sake, how many times can you eat in the course of a day?
You'd be surprised. See?
You know,
Hungry and civil servants should not go hand in hand.
you know, I did not say the civil servant is the corrupt person.
But many of them are.
No, they are not. And
Civil
I can tell you,
servants.
it is the businessman who goes there to entice the civil servant. Yeah, it's like the devil coming
Are you-
a holy man like you. Yeah, when you are hungry and he brings you a loaf of bread.
Brother Wachira,
Yeah.
I am far from being holy.
You will take bread from the devil at any moment.
So I can tell you for free, if we continue, you see, there's a political class. There is that's the executive class, and then there's the legislative class, the parliament and the real hardcore politicians, the legislators, and then we have the civil service. Yeah, the civil service is supposed to be very professional. The executive has their own interests. The legislature comes up with laws that creates incentives for the business people like us. If there is that conspiracy around them that is anti-people, this country will never move. That conspiracy around them, that they sit down and plan for us and do not involve us. Public participation is a sham. Public participation is just choreographed to make sure that these projects are passed for the sake of those profiteers. I'm trying to say this, there needs to be a total change in the way we govern ourselves. And the whole structure must not change immediately, but gradually. We have two sides, the economic revolution side and the bottom-up side. Sorry to bring up siasa.
No, but,
Yeah?
but why are you
That's what we've been
apologizing?
talking
Yeah.
about.
C'est la
Yes.
vie.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
whole hour. that's
I'm
what we've been
happy.
talking
I'm
about.
happy that you know there are two sides of the coin. Yeah?
There can be three sides to the coin.
Yeah,
but-
three sides. Yeah? You know, you invited me today here to talk about the
Yes.
Juakali sector.
Yes.
The micro, small, and medium enterprises.
Yes.
The city here is driven, the economy of the city is driven by the business person. He's the one who comes up with products and services, he or she. And those services are traded at the marketplace. And why are we not growing our county economy? Why are we not able to grow it?
I think we're growing it. It. The county economy is growing despite the politicians, despite the county government, they are growing. Just like this country is moving forward despite the politicians. Yes, it's moving forward in spite and despite of the politicians.
Yeah.
It's the citizens who are moving ahead. The point is, we could move much further. And that's what's not happening. But moving forward, we're moving forward.
Human progress must...
Yes. The vast majority of the citizenry of this country are at best what you may call smallholders, small business people.
How can those benefit from a county government? Because those are the ones that keep complaining. We see the hawkers being harassed.
Yes.
We see the people we are talking about, the Juakali sector encroaching onto roads. It's because they lack space
Yes.
to apply their trade. We see marketplaces. Markets are built, but they are small, not to the capacity of the traders who want to operate in this market. We see, Gikomba fires every left, right, and center, and yet we know how the importance of Gikomba to Nairobi, and not just Nairobi, for the entire country. How can this sector be taken care of?
You know, Eric, the trader in the city, I've traveled this journey for 20 years, from a micro entrepreneur to a medium entrepreneur. My company now is a medium enterprise. A medium enterprise is the one that has at least a minimum of 100 employees and does a minimum of $1 million in revenue. A micro entrepreneur is a mama mboga who makes sales of approximately 800 bob, 1,000 bob a day. Then in between the small entrepreneur. What are the problems they encounter? They live in fear. They have no faith in growing. They always are fearing that the KRA will raid them. They are fearing that KPLC will come and disconnect their inflated power. They fear that the city, county, askari will come and forcefully close their shop and arrest them. Fear.
But why has this been allowed to persist?
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. It's all about the leadership class not really caring about these so-called small traders. What are their interests? Their interests are not the interests of the small trader. The small trader is interested in generating products and services and go into the market and compete fairly without fear and have faith that they will be able to grow. When I come in as a governor of Nairobi, I will bring back dignity to the trader. I will not arrest a hawker. Why would you arrest why would you cut the hand that feeds you? I will not arrest the hawkers. Number two, we should be able to get these hawkers, designated areas for them to be able to do their trade. For the micro, small, and medium enterprises who are in industry, manufacturing, they should be able to get industrial parks. They get massive. When we are investing all this money in roads, and it's very good what Uhuru has done, we have had roads that connect now the marketplace and the customer. Fantastic. They've eased the cost of doing business. But now going forward, under economic revolution, you can tell my side of the coin, we should be able to get a lot of money allocated in industrial parks so that those parks, we can get most of these people confined there where we can be able to improve their skills, where we can be able to give them affordable.
I'm going to halt you right there.
Affordable credit.
I'm going to hold you right there because
Yes.
you're now sounding like the other people who sit there.
Okay.
There are 2 million individuals in this city who are in that so-called informal sector. In 8 years' time, we'll have a population of probably how many? 12 million in this city.
In the city.
Now that's what the planning I was talking about. Because everything you're saying, if you have 12 million people, one way or the other, the income of this city will increase. But as it increases, will the services and the provision for the things they need also be increased? Now, that's what a governor ought to be telling us about, or somebody wants to be a governor.
See, at the end of the day, we are talking about congestion, we are talking about water and services. But listen, those 12 million people, I do not even want to talk about the high level services. I'm very concerned that those 12 million people should not be living in slums. That is the main problem.
We have a problem.
We need first to sort out
5% of the land mass in this.
Yes.
5%.
Yes.
So surely, how do we increase that so that they can actually have the spaces in which you live in?
I mean, we can expand within the Nairobi metropolis. But what I'm trying to say is this, not to sound like all the other Tom, Dick and Harrys who've been around here. Yeah? Listen, how will we grow the economy of Nairobi beyond what we have? Because my goal is to make sure that we double the economy of Nairobi from approximately 4 trillion to 7 trillion, 8 trillion. We must make sure that these small traders in goods and services are able to go within the wider East Africa. It doesn't make sense for us to be confined within Kenya. We need to make sure that the sofa set maker in Umoja is able to sell his sofa set in Comoros. One time when we had a conference on low-cost housing.
Sorry, I've got to cut you short, Wachira, because time.
Okay.
Time has done the thing that it does. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay.
And we wish you all the best as you continue the conversations. Wachira Njuguna is a chairman of NCBDA, and he wants to be the governor of Nairobi City County. We've been having a conversation about what Nairobi needs, especially for the small trader.